Olá, eu sou Catiúcia Sotomayor e este é o AgroAmérica, programa em parceria com o Instituto Interamericano de Cooperação para a Agricultura, o ICA, aqui no AgroMais, seu canal voltado para o agronegócio 24 horas. A proposta é mostrar iniciativas inovadoras e compartilhar boas práticas dos 34 Estados-membros, que podem ser replicadas em todo o mundo na busca pelo desenvolvimento agrícola e pelo bem-estar rural. Hoje, o assunto é a resiliência da agricultura com um exemplo que vem do Caribe. Vamos falar sobre segurança alimentar e a situação do agronegócio em Barbados, um dos países que está sofrendo com as cinzas do vulcão La Soufrière, que entrou em erupção na ilha de São Vicente e Granadinas. Além disso, há um trabalho de fortalecimento do setor, com destaque para a produção de açúcar e algodão, culturas importantes da região. Nosso convidado é o ministro de Agricultura e Segurança Alimentar de Barbados, Indar, Weir. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
First of all, Minister, like everywhere else, the agriculture in Barbados is one of the most resilient sectors, right? With the pandemic affecting, for example, the tourism in the Caribbean, the agritourism also took a hit. Is this market still a valuable solution to guarantee a faster recovery for both sectors, tourism and agribusiness?
First of all, our sector last year had a 1.9% growth. This was due to the fact that we took particular care in making sure that we planned for the pending pandemic, given what was happening globally. So we actually ramped up production in Barbados across our farms right across rural Barbados, and therefore we were able to see sustainable growth within the sector last year. However, that was last year. This year, we were again confronted by another variant, and therefore we had to go to a period of pause in Barbados where the country literally was not doing too much economic activity. And this obviously impacted agriculture. And in some ways, it impacted the farmers as well. So that you would find that because tourism is not at the scale that is accustomed to be, in some cases, occupancy has been down below 30%. Then many of the farmers started to scale back their production as well. And then, of course, by scaling back production, then it would then reduce the growth that we would get in the sector this year.
And what about the vulnerability of the country with the climate change, for example?
Yeah, climate change is something that we are paying particular attention to. We have to move our agriculture to a more resilient, climate smart type agriculture, where we are looking at systems that can withstand changes that are taking place as it relates to weather patterns. And you'll find then that we are moving to more greenhouses, actually encouraging people to invest in greenhouses in Barbados, as well as moving people to hydroponic systems and the contemporary freight farms with renewable energy using solar voltaic systems. This would give us an opportunity to be able to deal with climatic events that may take place from time to time. Remembering that Barbados, within the Caribbean belt, we have a hurricane season which starts in June and runs through to the end of November. And therefore, in order for us to be able to preserve agriculture in the way that we should, then we have to look at more climate resilient types of practices, and therefore greenhouses that can withstand category 3-4 hurricanes. We are currently encouraging investors to get involved in. And then the freight farms, of course, which can be an easier transition from just open field agriculture, giving us the opportunity to do vertical farming, faster harvesting period, and increase yields. are all the things that we are now moving our investors and farmers towards doing. And that is the reason why we created the Farmers Empowerment and Enfranchisement Drive here in Barbados, which is a program that is designed to train young people in agriculture and at the same time give them an opportunity to get into contemporary agriculture by way of using these systems as well. Farmers Empowerment and Enfranchisement Drive is the ministry's flagship program for bringing people, but particularly younger people, into agriculture using technology.
And the challenge of sustainability also brings the whole question of food security, right? Is that a big concern? Because we can say you have a limited land space that is arable, and especially because the cost production tends to be high, right?
Yes, the cost of production generally is high. There are a number of things we have to fix. Certainly, the cost of providing water for farmers is something that we are considering right now. In order for us to be able to get consistency of supply, we are putting in reservoirs and then drip irrigation systems for those who are using open field agriculture. But for those who are going to hydroponics and great farms, then because of the revolving system, is less water intensive. That will help to drive the cost down. And with the use of renewable energy as well, then we would be able then to address some of the issues as they relate to costs and certainly help to drive the price down in terms of the cost of primary agricultural produce to the consumer as well. And these are all things that we are working on. Generally, what we are hoping to do is increase production overall for all crops and livestock.
Still dealing with the food security, you mentioned the importance of optimizing the domestic consumption. And you also will work with the direct sale, right? Expanding to grow overseas and diversifying the source of food supply.
Yes, we have to. Once we are able to increase production, the next step for us basically is to get a vibrant manufacturing sector going. And that in itself helps us a lot in our planning. Because if you're going to schedule our planting, we are at the stage where we want to get contract buying as well, so that a farmer who is planting knows exactly who he's planting for, where his product is going to go, the standards by which he has to operate, and therefore it's not a case of planting and then looking for market space. But in reality, it will be that you are planting because you know where that market is. And that is how we would then get to agro-processing so that we can expand what we are currently doing, set up the necessary pack house in Barbados where we can then source the produce from the farmers into the pack house and then into processing, and giving us a chance then to be able to empower more people, enfranchise more Barbadians to participate, and expand the feed program so that we find a new way of generating entrepreneurship in the farming communities.
Now, concerning the volcano that erupted in St. Vincent and Grenadines, the ashes are affecting agribusiness in Barbados and other places. What are the policies to assist farmers that lost significant crops and had animals affected by the toxins of the volcanic ash?
Well, I must tell you, we have been quite fortunate because there are certain positives that are from the volcanic ash. Yes, it was entirely disruptive. We had to shut down for a couple of days. The reality of it is that the ash has now been proven to be good for agriculture in terms of crops, with the minerals and nitrates that we are getting from it. It should increase our yields going forward. In the very, very short term, we did lose some crops because of the acidity And once it was on the leaves and we weren't getting enough rainfall, some crops started to die. But since the rains came and the leaves were washed away, removing the ash from the leaves, then we are able to see a far greener landscape, and the crops are doing a lot better. It is anticipated that once it is true that within the short term, it could have been harmful to crops. In the long term, it should give us greater yields and far more production from the integration of the ash with our soils, given the fact that we would then be able to increase the pH balance of our soils and make them more productive. In terms of livestock, we have not really had any significant losses, and we have been on the front foot, giving farmers ideas and tips, putting out public service announcements so that farmers can understand what they need to do to preserve the animals. And so far, we have been successful in getting their cooperation. We have not had a high mortality rate at all. And going forward, what we are looking to do then is to make sure that we can continue to help assist the livestock farmers by giving them access to hay for the animals and work with them to make sure that everybody is following the protocols that have been established in terms of washing the animals down, in terms of protecting animal feed, in terms of protecting water, and removing the ash from on the farms as well. We have done an entire cleanup program right across the island to remove the ash and store it on farmlands so that farmers can have access to it as addition to the fertilizers.
So in long term, we can say that the ash benefit the soil fertility, and it's not insignificant compared to the damages that this crisis brought, right? When you say long term, it's like 20 years, 50 years?
Oh, no. Well, I say long term, I'm talking about next cycle. Immediately, we would have had the short term damage to leaves, etc. But following that, once the rainy season comes in, which should be somewhere around June, we will start to see a difference. We will get the ash being washed into the soil. And for next cycle, for example, next year's sugarcane harvest, we should start to see greater yields. We should see a better stand from the sugarcane, and therefore we will be able to then assess carefully the benefits to be derived from the yields that we are seeing or will be seeing from the ash fall. All of the scientists, all the technical people have advised that the ash is good for crop production. And whilst it's not good for livestock, it certainly is very good for crop production. We have done some testing, and we are satisfied that based on the results we are seeing, um, farmers will benefit from the use of the ash as another form of fertilizer.
Now let's talk a little bit about innovation. How is today the level of technology in this sector? The digital inclusion of small farmers is a reality?
Yes, that is not moving at the pace that I would like to see. But I know that there are several farmers who are now looking at the use of technology within agriculture. We have people who are now using drones for surveillance purposes, for example. We are certainly looking at the use of drones for the application of sprays. We are looking at the use of drones for visiting farms to make sure that there's no cases where crops are being destroyed. And we're also then integrating technology across farms to protect farms using radio frequencies and traceability systems so that we know from seed to farm gate to the final consumer, we can trace back any crop and determine where it had come from.
And the sugar is a really important part of your economy and your culture. How was the current harvest affected? What were the changes in this crop? Is there a different strategy from now on?
The current sugar harvest is still ongoing. We had some downtime for approximately 1 week because of the ash fall. Bearing in mind the processing of sugarcane will be such that we have to be careful that the ash does not make its way in, and so we had to literally get rid of approximately 1,200 tons of canes that were already at the factory for grinding. And then we had to put off harvesting for a little bit. We had to make sure that when we are harvesting the sugar canes, we are not compromising the integrity of the factory as well by allowing the ash to get in. So we had to fix those things, and we're back on track. Our projections certainly will be done from what they were originally because of the amount of spoilage that we would have had from the ashfall. And the assessment of that is still being done. But I can tell you that we have lost cane juice, which would have gone on into the processing system to produce sugar and molasses. We've had to dump cane juice. We've lost sugar cane as well. Some farms, the yields are down um, below what was anticipated. And because of the fact that we had to slow down the crop, certainly the canes will start to lose the sucrose content. And then that in itself would also impact the yields because the drier the canes become, the longer they stay, then the less sucrose content you would get from them. So overall, it has been difficult on the sugar harvest and indeed the sugar industry of Barbados. But we're working through, we are doing the numbers, and we will revise our projections to suit what happened.
You also produce broccoli, sweet and white potatoes, poultry, and pork, for example. Cotton is another highlight, and Barbados' climate is perfect for growing it, right? But the volcano ashes can damage this quality too, right? What are the strategies to combat this risk?
Well, again, we have been fortunate where that is concerned, in that, yes, it can reduce the quality of the lint. Um, but so far, we've been able to get some rain, and the rain has been favorable to us. Certainly, the yields will be down as well with the cotton because of the damage from the ashfall. Not all of it will be lost. We are still at this point in time harvesting, but any ashfall that gets on the lint would certainly reduce the quality of the lint. And that is one of the things that would have impacted our projections as well for cotton.
Another concern in the sector is the access to water, right? The lack of water. Is it the main challenge?
Water is a serious problem because we go through a significant dry period. And I believe this is also occasioned by climate change, where we are seeing longer dry periods than we were seeing previously. So that we have now periods of drought somewhere between, I would say, December through to June. And farmers then are experiencing challenges with access to water. We are now putting systems in place to address that, and we are creating reservoirs across the island to be able to give consistent supply of water to the farmers during the dry season. In urban Barbados, we are putting in a system at Lears where we will provide some 21 million gallons of water in a reservoir that is being established there. And then in the east of the island in St. Philip, at River Plantation, we are putting in two dams there, one with 6 million gallons and another one with 23 million gallons of water to be able to give that consistency in supply to the farmers. And then to the north of the island, in the very rural side of the island, we are also making sure that we clean the freshwater wells there and looking at putting another dam or reservoir over there as well to be able to provide farmers with water. Obviously, this is going to take some significant investment, and we're looking at how we can make sure we get these done for the current rainy season, which is about to start in June. We've started the process. The contractors are already starting to do the work, and if all goes well, we should be seeing improved supply of water to the farmers come next dry season, because we will be capturing the water from the coming rainy season or hurricane season, as it is known to be.
And Minister, what specifics could you share about CARICOM and other multilateral agenda arrangements, and about agreements, technical agreements like the cooperation with ICA, the importance of this kind of relationship with international organizations?
Well, we get a lot of technical support from ICA. They've certainly been involved in training many of our young people. Many of our butchers have been trained by ICA. We have also been given significant assistance in the area of apiculture, where we now have more beekeepers in Barbados than we had previously. They continue to give us technical support as well. And equally, they're working with us with our sanitary and phytosanitary measures. We're also getting a significant amount of support from the FAO. So our international partners or agencies are working with us as well. ICA has been in the forefront of doing significant amount of training to certification level for our people, and many of them have gone on to start their own businesses in agriculture as well. Many of our butchers have been trained to do specialty cuts, and they've been just very good with us. We are creating an innovation center in Barbados at the Ministry of Agriculture, and ICA is also taking the lead in providing the technical assistance so that we can get the center up and running. And they're working with us to make sure that we can then bring an innovation center to Barbadians so that they can come there, one, to do research, two, it can be an additional attraction for tourism, and three, we would put ourselves in a position where we are now answering to the 21st century requirements of an agricultural sector.
There's also the potential relation with Brazil, right? What are the opportunities?
Oh, certainly, yes. We welcome the collaboration with Brazil as well. We have been working together. I've met with the ambassador for Barbados. We've discussed several things that we can look at in terms of collaboration. We've been getting some technical assistance as well. We want to expand our dairy industry, and certainly that is an area that we look at as well. Our cotton industry is one of the major planks in our agricultural sector that we're hoping to build on. And of course, Brazil has been good with sugar, and when we're looking at the new model for the industry, we certainly will be collaborating with Brazil as well if we're able to determine that we can change the model that is currently in place. All those things are still in planning, and therefore, once we've come up with a decision, then we will determine how we can go. But certainly that collaboration with Brazil is very valuable for Barbados, indeed very valuable for the number of things we're doing, and that technical cooperation that we're getting, we continue to cherish and value as part of the whole plans that we're putting in place to expand food security in Barbados.
Now let's talk about the efforts to honor Caribbean agriculture during COVID-19 that culminated in a music. Your idea was to pay a tribute to the sector in this moment of pain and loss. And the situation with the volcano is one more reason to honor the farmers, right?
Yes, that is correct. We actually did a farmers' anthem where we provided using some of the artists in Barbados to be able to come up with a farmers' anthem as a tribute to them, a way to immortalize them, because oftentimes their work is not known beyond their existence. And what we are trying to do is immortalize them through music and give them that type of motivation to help them to go on and to also inspire others to participate. And one of the things that you may find is that many times people who do work for the country in terms of agriculture do not often get the recognition that they deserve. And we at the ministry have been working with ICA to make sure that we can secure that space for those persons who participate in the sector. And one fitting way or one fitting tribute paid to them would have been by way of creating the anthem for the farmers. The farmers' anthem is very popular, and we certainly will do all that we can to keep them motivated.
So now we are going to watch a little bit of this amazing work.
Yes.
Plant to seed, watch it grow, watch it
grow to feed us tomorrow.
till the soil, nurture it well, and together we all will excel.
With a little bit of love,
A little bit of hope,
a little bit of care and tenderness.
we can feed a whole nation,
Lay the foundation to make tomorrow the best.
we've got the earth in our hands.
Yeah.
We can be the difference, yes, we can, if we just stick to the plan. Let Mother Nature's power heal the land, and we will.
It's a really beautiful message. Congratulations. We appreciate your presence. Thank you
Indeed.
again for your time. Indar, Weir, Ministro de Agricultura e Segurança Alimentar de Barbados.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
E você pode rever este programa no canal do AgroMais no YouTube e acompanhar também as outras entrevistas por lá. Aproveite para seguir a gente nas redes sociais, @AgroMaisTV. Obrigada pela companhia. A gente se vê.